Hey there, David Blacker here with a lesson on Robert Lookwood Jr.'s version of Steady Rollin Man, which of course is the original Robert Johnson tune in the key of A. And Robert Lookwood is a great player to study no matter what style of blues you're into, because of course he does all this great kind of Delta influence stuff, but his playing also goes deeply into like the electric styles and even some jump and more jazz inspired blues styles. So he's got this really wide palette, and he weaves in a lot of these really sophisticated kind of chord voicings and uncommon, I would say is a really hallmark of his style, uncommon kind of voicings and 2-note 3-note fragments and really great voice leading passages. So he's a great player to study. And this tune, Steady Rollin Man, originally the Robert Johnson tune, he plays very faithfully to the original version, and I think this could be a great, if you're interested in getting more in the Delta side of things, this can be kind of a doorway into that whole Robert Johnson, at least into the Steady Rollin Man tune. As the story goes, Robert Johnson was dating Lockwood's mother. And so, as a child, he was around, absorbing, right the hands of the master. So he's obviously got a ton of this great Delta language, but also goes off into other realms. He played electrified, and with a 12 string, of course, we're going to be on a 6 string for this lesson. But so that's it. And then just some history on Lockwood. I mean, he was one of Chess Records' stable kind of studio guys, played with Little Walter and Sonny Boy Williamson too, Rice Miller, and BB and other players, and so he was on a lot of recordings with Chess, kind of one of their go-to guitar guys, and then also pretty prolific kind of career on his, as an artist in his own right, doing electric stuff and as well as more like Delta styling. So a real good guy to study. So in this first lesson, or in this video, I'm going to pick apart the main vamp for Steady Rollin Man. If you're interested in the full, so that would be kind of what goes over the 1, 4, and 5. If you're interested in the kind of the full lesson package where we really dive in deep, we'll go through the turnarounds, some variations. Both choruses of what I played in the intro will be tabbed out. And the tab will be interactive, so you can loop a section, slow it down, and it's synced to the video and stuff like that. So really, helpful for studying. And there'll be a simple jam track of an acoustic, playing along in time with this tune, and a little bonus material actually as well. On just wanted to include some kind of unique ways Robert Lookwood approaches comping on some electrified blues context. So it's kind of a jam-packed thing, but right here we're just going to cover the basic nuts and bolts of Steady Rollin Man, the vamp, the groove on the main 1-4-5. So that's that. You can follow the link underneath this video to my site for the full package. One prerequisite for this is being able to play with the steady bass technique. And I cover this in my Lone Wolf True Fire course, Lone Wolf Blues, but it's, you know, it's all over. You know, you can find information on it online everywhere. So it's basically just being able to keep a steady bass going and a melody happening. So independence between your thumb and your picking fingers of the right hand. So that's one. I would stop this video if you're not familiar with that, and go learn that and get that first. And the second is just basic fingerstyle knowledge, such of the right hand. So thumb covers the E, A, and D strings, index covers the G, middle B, and ring high E. You know, so and the palm muting, of course. So, all right, so we open up on this great lush A chord, right? Which is basically you borrowing the second fret of the of the D to high E with your first finger, and then your pinky covers the fifth fret of the B and high E string, and that chord moves to this chord. And there's all kinds of nice voice leading licks that kind of lend themselves from these two chords, not necessarily in this piece, but in a lot of pieces. So these are chords that can be used in a variety of different contexts, or this move, you know, from the root to the 7. So that's just a little digression. But anyway, so the first riff happens over, or we'll call it part 1 of the 1 chord, happens over this shape. And since nothing really changes until we move to this shape, I'm going to speak only of the right hand in terms of what's going on. So we open with the first note. Well, I'll play through it once here. So okay, so that's the basic riff over the 1 chord, the whole 1 chord. So if we break that down into kind of bite-sized chunks, we have the first bit, which would be, okay, so that's bass note, high E, bass and high E together, bass note being the A string. So A string, high E, A string and high E together, B string and high E, A and high E together. So let's go through that much so far. Bass note, high E together, B high E alone, together A and high E alone, bass note. That's the whole sequence. Here it is slowly one more time. That's the whole part 1. Then we have this nice little so we'll think of part 2 as, okay, because that's exactly where part 1 ends. The last bass note of part 1, which is the open A, goes, the next note is the 3rd fret of the A to the 4th fret of the A, so minor 3rd, major 3rd, open, and then we pinch, and then we're into this G7 shape. So let's just take this coming out of the first riff. So that's 3, 4, open, and then we pinch the A and the high E 3rd fret together. So after that we pinch, so it's 3, 4, open, pinch, B to high E alone, pinch, high E, open. I'll loop that. Okay, so that's the second move. Then we come back to So at that point, it's just so we're the last note of the part 2 is that open. So then we come back to this little vamp here. So it goes 3, 4, open, and we pinch. So after that 3, 4, open, pinch together, and then B, high E together, high E, open. So so once it gets into that loop, it's pretty much the same finger picking pattern between it's just that the very first time we don't lead in with this, we just go, right? So that's the only difference. We lead in with a open A to a high E. So here's the whole 1-chord riff again. Okay, so that's basically 1. 4-chord is a really nice shape that gets like, you can really strum the whole guitar on it, although we're only kind of working with the A, D, high E, and B strings. And what we have is we slide, we can make a C chord, put the 5 on top, and then put the 5 on bottom, and then just move that up 2 frets, and we have this great D shape. But I'm pretty sure Robert Johnson uses this shape as well, because that ringing A note is kind of the characteristic of this tune through the 1 and the 4 chord. Right? It's just sort of droning, you know, through both chords. So what this next riff is, let's break this down note by note. So we slide in with our ring finger to the 5th fret of the low E, grab that major third, which is the F sharp of the 4 chord, on the 4th fret of the D, high E alone. So those are 3 single notes, they're not played in conjunction with other notes. And then we pinch the low E and high E together and play B, high E. So let's go that much. Then pinch again, high E, bass note. And if I'm moving too fast, YouTube, by the way, has a slow it down thing on the settings. There's a little gear icon on the video, and you can slow it down so that you can get each move specifically, you know. So here it is. I'll loop the 4 chord a few times. And if you need to slow it down, you can do that and focus on the right hand. Okay, so that's our 4. Then back to the 1. So we come back to the 1 with a low E to an A, and the A being the downbeat. So just like that, all palm muted. Same deals, you know, over the 1 chord. So here it is again. Slow. Okay, so our 5 chord Same deal. I wanted to point out, actually, just a little extra sort of filler is this is a great 4-chord. You know, so if we take, not necessarily for this piece, but it's good to know like different variations of these chords. You know, so you got your D, which we've been studying here. We'll get to the 5 chord in a second, but you got your D, and if you just take your ring finger and move it from the 5th fret of the low E to the 5th fret of the G string, we get this nice lush 4-chord there. And, you know, really good to experiment with where else you can kind of find these shapes and inversions. You know, of course you got your 9 shape. You can use that maybe in a more of a jazzy kind of delta E style. You have that shape. You have the shape, of course, that we covered. You have this shape that we just went through. You have this shape, which is the A7 shape. So that's 7th fret, and then grabbing the 8th fret of the high E to get the 7 there, root down to 7. So that's a nice variation. And then you have, you know, this D shape basically playing off of the major 3rd and the 5 there. Top half of this shape. So there's a lot of stuff to play with, and it's about finding these unique variations. Of course, we have the classic D7 in position with the major 3rd and the bass too. So it's good to do that. It's good to think, you know, what else can I throw in here and experiment with these things. So so that was a digression, but back to the 5. Now for that, we also could, if we wanted to be a little experimental, we could pick up our 1st finger, because it would give us 2 open, the E and the B, which are perfectly fine for the 5 chord. Or we could have the, you know, actually it would be the B and the B, because there's a high B and then an open B. So it gives it a kind of a different flavor. Or you pick that E up there. And this finger picking pattern is the same as the 4. So. And then okay, so after we come out of the 5, low E, open A, high E, pinch A and high E together. So then we have our B and high E alone. And then pinch, we move our middle finger down to that 7 on the high E 3rd fret. And then we pick our 1st finger up so we can get an open high E string after that 7 pinch. So let's go that far. And then we pinch the 3rd fret of the B and the open A string. And then we grab the 2nd fret of the G, and then we resolve it to the A and the 2nd fret of the B, which is the major 3rd. So here's that whole little riff. Let me play that riff one more time. Okay, and Johnson uses that not only in this last little turnaround section, but in other parts of the tune too. So it's good to kind of listen to the original version and hear where he's throwing that riff in. So then after that, we have the 5 chord. So that is just open E, pinch together, B to high E open. So all open, like all unfretted strings, right? Open E, even though we have an E chord, we're holding an E chord here just for form, but those are all open strings. So open E, pinch together, B, high E, pinch on the 3rd fret of the B, high E open, bass note. I'm going to loop it a few times here. So that should help get you kind of into the tune. Back, like I said, at the lesson, we'll explore some of the turnarounds and some additional material, but hopefully this will get you started. And I definitely go check out the Lockwood Jr. version of this. It's up on YouTube. There's a great clip of him playing it live, a few of them probably, and the Robert Johnson. Recommend both of those. Any questions, don't hesitate to hit me up. And if you want to post a version of yourself playing this riff through beneath this video, I highly encourage that. So I'd love to see it. All right, take care.